this together because House of the Wind is based on a very real historical fact. It's drawn from a very real locale. This is where I grew up. I grew up in that tent. See that picture up there? That's only half of the tent. The tent is twice that big. My parents moved there bought the land in the late 30s and moved there not too long after that. But since Pops was going to build a house, where are you going to put 4 kids and a wife? Well, you go down to Utilizing and you say, build me a tent. And he did. It had a wooden floor and 2 wooden doors, and that was it. The rest of it was just tent. So we moved in to Spring Valley, California. Nobody out there hardly at all, at all. This is a view that we had of the valley. There's nothing there, folks, to speak of. It was glorious to grow up there. Marvelous to grow up there. Terrifyingly lonely for my mother, to go out of town. But in Spring Valley, my father began the house, and then this date happened, December 7, 1941. You know what it was? The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. I was in this tent, listening to the radio. Announcer came on and said, the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. My mother screamed. She said, oh my God, Bill. Her brother built a station there in the Navy. And she said, go get your father, go get your father. I ran out to where this beam was being put up. Okay? He was giving some help, and they were actually putting that beam in place, and I had screamed. And he wouldn't listen to me because he was concentrating. I said, Daddy, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Oh, brother. He stopped work, and then everything stopped, as you probably know from World War II. Everything stopped. You bought nothing, you sold nothing. Everything went to the war effort, everything went to the military. Building supplies, that's it. Goodbye, sorry. We have nothing for you. 4 kids, a wife, new tent, and now nowhere to build a house. And it lasted that way for much too long, until finally it was relaxed, and then building supplies became available again, and my father began to work, leaving at 5:30 in the morning with us kids to take us into town to school every morning, bring us home every night at about 6 o'clock at night, eat his dinner, change his clothes, and work until 1 in the morning with floodlights to build that home. It's a beautiful, and it's still there. And when I talked to the kids at Valhalla High School, they wanted to know the address. I said, oh, 302 Mark. Some of the cars went out there and parked across the street from that poor lady's house, and they're doing this, you know. It's a bunch of adolescent males, you know, scanning the house. So I called her, I said, please do not be disturbed. They're just trying to see the House of the Wind. And of course, she's tickled pink about this book and is dying for her own copy of it, you know. But in this house, I lived through the war. Then in this house, I met a young man, obviously at college. Man, married, that was the story. But what I didn't know when I was living in this house, what was happening to an awful lot of people, I knew nothing about the Japanese imprisonments. I didn't know that the Japanese family whose land butted our land disappeared. And before the family went, the father was taken away in the night by the FBI. I didn't know these things. I didn't know that kids that lived down here were now in a prison. How the hell could they be in prison? They were American citizens. Their parents were American citizens. How could they be in prison? Well, they were for the entire war. When I started finding these things out, something in me said, there has to be a story in there. So the girl in the valley, that's me, and the girl from the Japanese farm, who didn't exist, are best friends, and then comes this thing, and she's taken away. The only way the girl in the camp is going to survive is because the girls have a common friend, an English teacher who lives on the hill above Spring Valley, and there was one, who had an old horse named Peanuts, and he was real, and I did right. And so the girl who's still in the valley, the English teacher tells her, listen, I'm going to arrange something. It could cost me dearly, but my husband's in the special services and was in special services, and I have friends in high places. I want you to sit down and write. Write the valley, describe the valley, put the seasons of the valley, the people of the valley on paper, give them to me, and And I will see that they go where they have to go to that girl locked up in this camp, because everything is censored. Everything in, everything out is censored. But this teacher said, oh, and she did. And so for all of those years during the war, letters were smuggled in to the girl in the camp and smuggled out to Anna, the girl in the valley. They kept them both sane. And it made a very good story. And so House of the Wind, I think it's probably, to me, my most precious story, because it tells people who care to read it about what we did to others that we should not have done. So, these pictures, I decided that I found old black and white negatives. I didn't even know we had them. Went down and asked somebody, can you print these up and make them sepia tone? And they said, sure. And I said, can you make them look a little like watercolor? Sure. And they did. So in House of the Wind, these pictures are there. Especially my dad. So if you think that it's something, you know, kind of a detached hobby of mine, it isn't. For me, it's like a burning passion. I have to write. I just have to. And whether they're all read ever or not, that's up to fate, not up to me. But I'm going to leave them in libraries with the invitation to read them. And the nice thing about them, in the adult section, since my name is Micklish, I'm right next to Michener. Talk about placement, location, location, location. So right now, guess what? 4 books are now accepted by the city library system. They found them. Remember the class when I was telling you that they lost them? They found them. So 4 of my books now are being cataloged for the city library system. And if I'm lucky, they might say yes to others. I hope. Are there any questions?